Alrighty, Kosovo Crisis 2.6 NATO bombing campaign, Operation Allied Force. So again, looking at the concepts of change, significance, and perspective, the key question I want you to have in the back of your mind as you are reading this section or listening to this video is how did the international community respond to what's going on in Kosovo? So the obvious question is with bombs, but look a little bit deeper. How specifically did the international community respond to the situation going on in Kosovo? This quote here by Thatcher kind of sums it up a little bit. Right here, the former prime minister talking about the current prime minister at this time, Tony Blair, what's going on. So the NATO bombing campaign against Serbia is going to last for 77 days, and it's going to finally be brought to conclusion on the 10th of June in 1999. So it's going to go on for a series of days. It's not exactly a short bombing campaign, okay? Going to be shorter than the Serb attack at Sarajevo, but it's ultimately going on for 77 days. This right here, the decision to use force was controversial. This is incredibly important when it comes to understanding point of view. Okay, you need to be able to look at stuff from multiple perspectives, really in any way of looking at any situation at all, but particularly when it comes for IB history. You need to understand both sides of the perspective, understand right here, okay? Why did NATO decide to ultimately launch an attack, and why is that attack controversial? This, when it comes to the Serbian perspective, was a domestic issue, okay, is a dispute happening within Serbia, and that NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, by getting involved in this, is really using an international organization to solve a domestic dispute, and that this, by doing so, they're kind of going beyond their supposedly neutral position of not getting involved in domestic disputes, which is a core tenet and belief of NATO. That's kind of the Serbian perspective right here. This is our crisis. This is our country, our domestic issue. Why are you getting involved in this? Okay, what's the point? What's actually going on right through here? Basically, Serbia sees no real reason for NATO getting involved in a domestic issue. Again, this is our house. Okay, what's going on in my living room does not affect the neighbors, okay? Let me do my own thing. Let me control my own situation. If my kid's acting up in my living room, I can handle him. I don't need the SWAT team to come take care of my child right through there. A bit of an analogy. So diplomatic means have been tried. Coercive pressure has been applied, and none of it seemed to work, okay? This is the rationale and the reason for NATO getting involved, okay? They've tried to be diplomatic. They've tried to use coercive pressure to put Milosevic in a situation where he's basically got to respond, and it's not really working. At this point, they're going to say basically the only thing we have left to do, plain and simple, is to return in force. It was a remarkable example of precision campaigning against an enemy. It had used all means against its disposal, including hiding military hardware in hospital areas and schools, moving troops under the cover of the Red Cross convoy. So right through here, only 2 Allied aircrafts during the entire NATO campaign failed to return, and there were no combat fatalities for NATO allies. And this is going to show exactly how effective and precise the campaign was. This right here is talking about basically that the Serbs had used really any means at their disposal to make sure that they were being protected, okay? So hiding military hardware in hospital areas and schools, you know right away that military hardware is going to be attacked, so put it in a hospital and schools makes it harder for the enemy to attack them. The counter of this is you might be accidentally bombing hospitals or schools. Moving troops under the cover of the Red Cross. The Red Cross is supposed to be a neutral organization. You're not supposed to attack it, so it's a way of basically moving military hardware and moving troops without them getting attacked, because they're going to kind of put them under the disguise of a Red Cross envoy, okay? So you can understand the problems and situations going on with that. Kind of a bit of problematic. Initially, Western allies thought it would be a short campaign, only going to last a few days. So basically, once you drop some bombs, Milosevic is going to realize, hey, maybe I should get involved and stop doing this. Ultimately, that's not going to happen. This question right here, did this show that the U.S. was non-committed? This quote right here, when Clinton comes in, basically says, yeah, we kind of miscalculated things, didn't really think that way through. Does this show the United States is really not committed when there's a little bit of pressure coming on within the U.S. to stop getting involved in the conflict? Some of the military is going to think that it was a mistake, that they're going to be basically telling the Serbs right here that this is not going to be a quick and slow thing, that's going to go on some time, and that they thought that was a mistake, and letting the Serbs know, because basically the Serbian perspective could be hey, if we just wait this out, they're going to eventually quit because our will is stronger than theirs. Some members of the military thought this was problematic and they could potentially exploit that. Ultimately, though, that is not going to be happening. So they're going to be targeting the Serbs. The air campaign had been devised by NATO commanders to hit Serbian targets fast and hard with a devastating display of firepower. Basically, get them as quick as we can, make it as impactful and painful as we can, and show our strength. Okay, if we got a bomb that makes up a big old cloud, let's use that and show them who's boss. Essentially, this meant that there was a consensus war that had to be fought by a large number of countries because all the countries of NATO kind of have a bit of a different perspective on what's going to be happening. Dealing with an opponent, okay, the military had to be balanced with the political ramifications of the war. So basically, what's going to happen at the end of the deal? They're going to have a different way of looking at the situation, okay? NATO is made up of a bunch of different countries, all of which have different perspectives on the situation of the world. All of them except for two are going to be European countries, so this is the European conflict. They're obviously going to look at the situation a little bit differently, understand the political pressure that NATO has faced when it comes to actually figuring out what do we do in this crisis. Understand why NATO fought in this manner. Okay, so this right here in this section, I'm not going to talk about it because you can read, is going to explain why NATO did what they did. So how was the war fought? Number one, NATO had better weapons. Okay, that's just the way it is. Okay, NATO is going to have better weaponry, and it's going to be immediately seen when it comes to just the impact of NATO versus Serbian weapons. Okay, Serbian weapons aren't really being very effective. They're getting destroyed, and it's quite obvious. The opening days of the campaign saw the destruction of Serbia's air defense and key military targets. Strategically, you take out air defense because you're going to be using planes to get in. Take them out, it's easier to get in. And key military targets because you take out the most important stuff first. That basically makes it so your opponent cannot respond. Therefore, they're going to be the first things targeted. In the government in Belgrade is going to be especially concerned with what the public saw the war through the lens of the government, and Serbia quickly portrayed itself as an innocent victim of NATO aggression. So Milosevic, right through here during this crisis, realizes that if it looks like it's a conflict between Milosevic as an individual and NATO, he's not going to do very well. If it looks like it's a conflict between Serbia, an innocent victim of domestic dispute being taken advantage of by a NATO aggression, this is going to be a different way for him to kind of persuade the situation and make him look like he's a much better person, put him in a better situation, and ultimately to make Serbia look better. Even today, if you are in Serbia, when you see anything talked about this, recently I saw a monument to the children who were killed in the attack, and it simply said innocent children of NATO aggression. Okay, so they're not going to call it NATO bombing campaign. It's considered NATO aggression. Operation Allied Force, it's not the name. They consider it NATO aggression. Basically, Serbia feels that NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is invading. NATO does not ask the UN for formal authorization of force. They did not do this because opposition would have prevented it from happening. Remember, when you understand the Security Council, there are 5 member countries as the UN Security Council that all have veto power. Russia and China are 2 of those countries that are on the Security Council that have permanent veto power. They are going to be supporting Serbia at this time. Any resolution that would have been brought up when it comes to talking about Kosovo, Russia and China would have vetoed, and then therefore really was no purpose of bringing it up. Therefore, they just decided might as well not do it. It's just a waste of time. The air campaign is going to continue, and there is going to be a lot of people getting the heck out of the region. Okay, refugees are going to be fleeing from Serbian troops who are moved in to cleanse. Okay, this is important to understand ethnic cleansing, basis of a genocide. In Kosovo, they're getting out so they do not get killed. There are areas of KLA resistance. However, this is not going to help stop refugees because although they are fighting, it's a war zone. Okay, people don't really want to live in a war zone. Understand right here and know what's being stated here when it comes on the 17-point statement. Just understand basically what NATO is asking in its 17-point statement. Operation Allied Force was a remarkably successful air campaign. It's going to ultimately mark a turning point in aerial warfare for the 21st century. Okay, so we're going to have within aviation history and aviation warfare, you're going to have World War I, the first real bit of aviation. World War II, where it's going to be a little bit different. The Korean War, we're going to have jet fighters, and it's going to be pretty much the same up until this time. Now we're going to have much more successful, much more precise bombing campaigns, much more successful and precise airstrikes as well. Basically, this section is just saying that technology is a lot better right now in the beginning of the 20th century, in late 1990, 21st century, 1990s versus earlier on. As a result of this, the situation is going to be different. Amazingly, as I've talked about already, only 2 aircraft were lost in the entire mission, and there were no American or NATO, servicemen who were killed on active service during this crisis. Without troops on the ground, the ability to fight this to find the Serbs, support air spotters had direct bombers on their target right through here. So there was some technical issues that NATO is going to be experiencing, like figuring out where the troops are actually at, different situations going on right through there, as you could probably imagine. The airstrike is going to be postponed. NATO is going to be spending a lot of money on its assets, and it's getting very little in return. Basically, it's spending a lot of money to blow stuff up, and it's not really getting them much out of the situation. You can see some pictures right here. A bridge that was destroyed to stop transport of troops. We're going to see the radio and relay station in Novi Sad right through here. So this is going to stop them from disseminating information, hence why you're going to target radio and TV stations. Mistakes are going to be made. Collateral damage, when it talks about war, is damage inflicted on people or structures other than the intended target. So if you destroy a school, you kill some kids, anything like that, and it's not the actual target, it's considered collateral damage. So make sure you understand that. There was some collateral damage in the situation. NATO is going to target a military convoy. In doing so, they're actually going to hit a convoy of Kosovar Albanian refugees, so refugees leaving Kosovo, and they're going to kill 80 of them. As you can imagine, the Serbs are going to use this to their advantage, take pictures of the dead civilians, put it all across TV, all on the radio, everywhere they can, and show everyone that this is what NATO did. They just bombed civilians. Look how bad they are. We're not bad. They're bad. Support us. Attack of the Convoy in 1999. This is the one I was just talking about right through here. It's going to be the biggest military blunder of the campaign. There was a number of mistakes that were made. This is kind of going to take the cake when it comes to mistakes. As you can imagine, bombing refugees is going to do. Serbian authorities are going to take foreign journalists to the scene at the site of the attack. This is a good example to show how media can be used in the times of crisis. Remember, when we talked about Rwanda, the Rwandan radio stations, how they're going to be playing a role here. Serbia says basically, hey, this is bad. This is bad that they're going to be killed. However, this is an example for us to use what we need, and this can help change kind of the public perspective, and they're going to try to do that fairly effectively as well. NATO, on the other hand, is going to acknowledge the mistakes, and they're going to blame it on Milosevic, okay? Basically saying that if Milosevic would have done what he needed to in the first place, we would not have this situation. And by him leading the way he was doing, by him refusing to grant Kosovo independence, by him using genocide, he has basically endangered his own people. So it's his own fault for not protecting his country due to his inadequate leadership. So understand kind of the difference of perspective right through here. He's going to be saying, you killed civilians. They're going to be saying, yes, but because of your inability to lead. NATO is going to be pressured to accomplish attack that's ultimately going to be greater than this collateral damage. There's going to be more stuff that's going to be happening right through here. This is going to be a huge point that would be really important to understand when it talks about contemporary political issues involving NATO, okay? There's going to be a lot of pressure as a result of this from the international community to ultimately stop the campaign. It's important to understand the name General Wesley Clark. He's going to be the commander of NATO forces at this time, ultimately Supreme Allied Commander of NATO from 97 to 2000. Let's give a bit of biographical information on him right here. But he is going to be important because, one, he's leading the crisis. Number two, he is going to be the first U.S. general to win a war without losing any soldiers in combat, which is really quite impressive when you actually think about it, having a full-on bombing campaign and having none of his soldiers be killed or injured in the crisis. There's going to be a gap between the two sides in air power, but NATO is obviously much stronger. However, the Yugoslav army, so Serbia, is going to be one of the best equipped military forces in Eastern Europe. Remember, they had broken from the Soviets, and as a result of this, they're going to be very, very strong compared to other countries like Bulgaria or Poland. For the most part, the time, though, it was they basically had to hide from the air attack carried out by NATO because NATO was pretty successful and ultimately knew what they were doing. In addition, Serbs are going to put their troops under bridges where it's harder for them to be taken care of, hence why you would bomb bridges as well, in villages and towns, anywhere near civilians to make it more difficult for the Allied forces to attack because they realize NATO is not going to be bombing in an area that has a lot of civilians. They will be doing it, but there's a much less likelihood of them doing it, and if they do, it's going to be a lot harder because they have to be much more precise. So basically, we're going to put them here, make it harder for them to attack. Locals are even going to report Serbian soldiers walking around in civilian convoys to avoid being targeted. They're going to be using Red Cross vehicles to transport military equipment, which is specifically banned by the Geneva Convention, so it's something that's a violation of the laws of war. It's illegal. They did it anyways. There's going to be further pressure put on the Serbian government when they start bombing the capital of Belgrade. There is a link here to the Rwandan genocide, the debate of using the radio station, when they're going to be bombing different radio stations, refineries, different things like this. So understand this right here. Understand the connection between Rwanda and Kosovo. Get it right there. May 7, 1999, the United States and NATO is going to basically screw up big time. They're going to be dropping a bomb in Belgrade, and instead of hitting what they were trying to hit, they hit a Chinese embassy and kill 3 journalist civilians. So remember, China's a supporter of Belgrade and Serbia anyways, and the United States just bombed the Chinese embassy. You can imagine this is not going to be good, okay? Chinese reaction is swift and severe, as you would anticipate. It's going to really worsen the relationship between NATO and the Chinese and Russians, who are also supporters of the Chinese. Russians supported the Chinese and the Serbs as well. And they're going to be against the force. And now they have a reason to basically say, hey, here's why we are against the force. This use of force. At the same time, the force is being used. Diplomatic efforts were being employed to try to get Milosevic to basically come to terms and stop fighting. Some in the military are angry because they basically view this as another Vietnam War. The United States is simply in this situation, and they can't do it because they're not the political necessities of what's happening politically and politically expedient is making it harder for them to fight. Some believe there's going to be a pressure from the public is going to encourage Milosevic to take his chances and to stand firm. Basically, that Milosevic did a good job of making it look like Serbia was a victim of NATO aggression, and therefore people support Milosevic, so they believe he should stand firm, and he fears that if he doesn't stand firm, he's going to be losing favor in Serbia and thus lose his political power. This is going to be the support of Serbia. Believe they're going to get help from Russia as well, and that Serbia is ultimately, if they get Russian support, they're in a better situation, but if Russia can't support them, they're going to be in a bad situation, okay? Lastly, ethnic cleansing and refugee crisis. One of the principal aims of this was to stop ethnic cleansing of Kosovo Albanians in Kosovo. So basically, this is happening. We have to stop this from happening. We have to do it now. Serbian government is going to be using NATO attacks as a cover to continue his campaign against the Kosovars. Okay, so basically, hey, this is happening. We're just going to be doing stuff here to take care and protect the situation. We happen to kill them as well. Oops. Basically making life miserable for refugees. The fact that NATO is also bombing in the region is making it even more miserable, so they're really in a crappy situation, so to speak. Belgrade is going to be bombed in April, and it's going to accelerate the process of ethnic cleansing of Kosovo. Basically, Milosevic is going to be saying, hey, they're bombing us here. Let's just get going. The UN High Commission of Refugees right here estimates the total number of refugees forced out, more than 80% of the population of Kosovo. NATO bombing campaign had not caused the campaign of ethnic cleansing, but it certainly gave Milosevic and Serbian authorities a reason to continue to do it and thus do it more effectively. Many refugees are going to be stripped of their valuables and belonging, personal identification. So when they try to get back, they're going to be basically not have anything. Strip them of their identity, okay? Known as identity cleansing. Understand identity cleansing, what it is and why it is going to be significant and impactful. This explains right here the reason why they were forced to leave. You should know this, okay? Pause the video. Make sure you know that. It's going to be important. The side of the helpless refugees is going to provoke sympathy for Kosovo. As you can imagine, people are not going to be liking to see this happen. Therefore, they're going to be more sympathetic. Serbian government's going to plan ethnic cleansing known as Operation Horseshoe, or Potkova right here is the Serbian word for this. First, they're going to destroy the KLA. Second, they're going to cleanse Kosovo of ethnic Albanians. It's going to look right through here, come around, surround them, and crush them, and basically make sure they're gone. Amnesty International is going to state there's clear evidence of what's going on here. There's going to be enough evidence to show of their committing war crimes, including rape. There's an existence of formal government plan to do this. Whether or not it's actually been proven, we don't know. It's not official substantive proof of Operation Horseshoe. Bit of evidence, but not, I guess, officially proven, so we can't really say it's officially proven. NATO is going to be criticizing some of this as well. At the end of the trial, Milosevic is going to deny existence of the plan at the end when Milosevic goes to trial. However, they could not actually verify whether or not this was a true thing. We can't really prove it because the evidence has not been there. Bombing campaign is ultimately going to end due to political pressure put on NATO, and it's going to be brought about a lot of strains on Yugoslavia's government as well. This comment right here by Clinton is important to understand, so do make sure you know that. It's going to increase a lot of pressure on Milosevic. These bombings are. He's going to ultimately know he cannot win. Secondly, Russia is going to ultimately back out and not support Serbia. And Milosevic realizes he is not going to be getting Serb support or Russian support. He's kind of in a bad situation. Yeltsin is going to invite Milosevic to Moscow and basically tell him that he's going to support an international program for peace and a settlement in Kosovo. There's going to be the ceasefire agreement ultimately agreed right here. And this is a major loss for Milosevic. He's based his entire political career in Serbia on Kosovo. Having to withdraw from Kosovo was a major, major, major political loss to him, and he doesn't take it well. It's going to be a mandate for peace created. This is going to explain what's everything in that mandate of peace. Make sure you understand that. Operation Joint Guardian is going to be coming about. It's going to ensure the immediate withdrawal of Serbian troops from Kosovo within 11 days of signing the agreements. Soldiers from the KFOR were not in combat operation roles, so those who were getting them out of the region, but basically to make sure everything is going to be peaceful. United States, France, UK, Germany, and Italy are each going to be giving a zone of Kosovo to administer, similar to what was happening after Bosnia. Same kind of thing happened after World War II in Germany. And then we're going to get the incident in Pristina, the capital, right through here. Confrontation between the troops from the KFOR and Russian forces over the airport. Russia's going to say, we're going to control it. The KFOR is going to be saying, nope, you're not. General Clark's going to order NATO troops closest to the airport to take control using force if necessary. So basically, if you need to fight the Russians, go ahead and fight the Russians. Michael Jackson, not the singer, different Michael Jackson, military man right here. Clark's order was to disarm the Russian soldiers, which would have been highly confrontational, possibly starting a major, major war. Jackson, who is ultimately the one on the ground, is going to say, I'm not going to start World War III for you. So he's going to be saying, Clark, no. This is going to start World War III. I'm not going to do that. Basically, screw you. It ain't happening. Technically, it was meant to treat everyone fairly as possible, Serbian soldiers in the province and the KLA guerrilla fighters and civilians of all ethnic groups. Treat everyone equally and treat them fairly. The Allies had committed themselves once more to administer another part of the former Yugoslav state, great expense for the unforeseeable future. So basically, the Allied countries now are going to be administering another part of this country. It's going to be costing a ton of money, and they're going to be stuck into it for a fairly long time. That is all for now. I know this is a long video, but a lot of stuff to talk about. Questions, comments, put it below. Otherwise, I will see you later. Good luck.